Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. So the 600pp Tomahawk has returned after I believe about 4 months away from Gran Turismo 7. I was just kind of playing a bit of NASCAR, and all of a sudden a subscriber and a PSM friend of mine sent me a message on PlayStation and basically said a under 500pp Tomahawk is here, and sent me a screenshot of the tune. So I called him a legend and I went straight in and picked the Tomahawk up after months of collecting dust and went ahead and did the tune, and to my surprise it worked first time and worked straight away. I'm not quite sure where he actually got the tune from, so all I know is that he's just sent me this message. So if I have to assume, he's probably got it off of one of the forums or maybe Reddit. So I don't actually know who to credit for this method. I'm not sure where it's kind of appeared from. It's just kind of weird that after around about 4 months since making the Tomahawk glitches, all of a sudden the Tomahawk then decides it's going to come back into relevancy and start grinding away at Tokyo again. To be honest, it really kind of brought back some memories of a kind of better time of Gran Turismo 7, just kind of seeing the Tomahawk roll around. Tokyo was definitely a refreshing feeling and kind of brought me back to sort of April time, when the game was kind of fresh and kind of new. So really awesome to see this car back in the game. So if you want to buy the Tomahawk for yourself, it's in the Dodge dealer and it goes for 1 million credits. In 2 runs you're going to basically pay for it yourself, so in around about 40 minutes or so. Anything after that is just pure profit. So nice, easy and straightforward in terms of running this car and buying it. Very kind of cheap starting point. I think altogether it's going to cost you like 1,050,000. After that you can just go, grind and earn all that money back. So here is the tune. We're actually going to run comfort hard tyres on this tune. In terms of body height adjustments, we've got 70 at the front, so make sure you've got it set like so, and 100 at the rear. Anti-roll bar is 1 and 1, so that's going to give the car a really weird feeling. It's 30-30 for the compression on dampening ratio, and the expansion, well, that's going to be 40 and 40. Natural frequency is going to be 5.75 and 6.36 at the rear. You're not going to have to actually edit the negative camera angle. I'm just trying to get myself to the toe angle, which is both 0 and 0 for both. In terms of differential gear, we've got the fully customizable differential, and it's going to be 10 at the front of initial torque and 22 at the rear. Acceleration sensitivity is 40 at the front, 5 at the rear. Braking sensitivity is 20 front, 5 rear. In terms of transmission, we are going to be running the bog standard transmission on this one with a power restrictor set to 100, so we're not limiting. Ballast positioning -15 with 1 single point of ballast. We're then running the fully customizable ECU, but we are not limiting the car again. Downforce, it wouldn't let me edit. However, this is exactly how you need it: 493 and 657. Nothing else needs changing on this tune. Feel free to pause. So this one's for the newbies. In terms of the event we're going to be running, it's in Asia and it's the Tokyo Expressway in Japan, and it's the World Touring Car 600. So go ahead and enter that one. Before you start, however, I recommend these following settings. Full traction control, I recommend having the driving line on so you've got something to follow. Braking area, I definitely recommend on because this car is insanely quick. ASM on, and counter steering assistance to strong. In terms of sensitivity of your controller, turn it all the way down to -2. So I actually started out running this at Power Mix 6 in lean fuel mode. However, you can run it at Fuel Mix 1 throughout the whole event. I do not recommend getting on the DRS6 system with this car anymore because it will just cause it to rocket off. It's very, very twitchy, and I recommend you running on average probably about 75% throttle throughout your run, because this car will just kind of bullet and slide all over, and it's quite easy to kind of pick up penalties. And obviously with the extra damage, it's going to make the car feel even kind of weirder. But I do actually recommend running lean for the first few laps while you're in the rain, just as you kind of adjust to the car and get used to it. Now this is by no means a perfect run. In terms of time, I did around about 21 minutes. I do feel like over time we'll end up with probably under 20-minute runs, maybe even faster. So it's pretty much on par with the original 600 Tomahawk was when it first came around. Eventually we did end up getting it to closer to like 15 minutes or so. I do not think this builds on that level. It's definitely different in terms of how you handle it, because the gear ratios aren't really kind of messed up like they used to be. Back in the day you used to run basically gear ratios, I believe, gears like 5 to 7. Anything else was basically glitched out and wouldn't really, you know, put the car in those gears, because it kind of cause it to spin. I definitely recommend just really feathering the throttle and just getting used to how the car drives. Again, like I said, do not put that DRS on, because you will have zero grip at all. It's so twitchy and so slidey, especially in the opening laps. So it's all about really kind of surviving as you go around. I'd say probably lap 1 to around about 4. As you can see, we're sort of sliding everywhere, even with the traction on. But eventually, when you get to around about lap 4, I recommend basically turning the power up, because the track will be dry enough then, and basically going full throttle to the finish. You will get penalties. Even I did here. My run was really poor. See, as I slam into the barrier there, that's what I mean. If you open up the use the DRS system on this car, you can take a lot of damage. I do feel like as the times kind of go down and people run this method, it will just get much quicker and much easier to use. Don't expect to kind of jump in and be an absolute rocket the first time. It's definitely a really kind of weird feeling, probably, you know, even weirder than the Corvette. However, it is 100% the fastest method. Even if you pick up, you know, 2 minutes worth of penalties, you are still going to go faster than any of the other methods currently in the game. So again, I do feel like the potential is there for it to be sort of under 20 minutes or so. I just don't feel like we're ever really going to be hitting the 15-minute barrier like we could really do back in the day. As you can see, now we are on lap 3. I've basically just turned the engine up, so it's up to you. I recommend, you know, laps 3 to 4 really, to basically turn the engine up. It is still going to be quite slippy at this point. Around lap 4 is more the kind of best moment to do it, purely because you'll be at a dry enough stage to really feel a lot of difference in terms of grip. In terms of lap time, you're not looking at as faster lap times that we used to do. I believe my quickest overall was about a 1:41. It does have the potential to easily be in those, I'd probably say, mid to low 30s, but I don't feel like it'll be kind of running what we used to do back in the day. I mean, I believe like some lap times were something like 1:05 or something. It was just something really kind of crazy. But I feel like with having to kind of shift the gears more, it's definitely kind of, you know, hampering the sort of overall lap time. So it's definitely not going to be as low as it used to be. I do actually recommend just running in the high gears as you get used to it, especially as the track dries out. Just keep it in probably gears 5 to 7, sometimes at gear 4, and possibly for a split second at the really kind of sharp corners, gears like 1, 2 and 3. Anything else, just kind of just run it into those high gears. Again, that's mostly to just kind of maintain as much grip as you can and stop the car kind of twitching around as much as possible. Hence why we sort of took the acceleration sensitivity down. I believe overall I lapped pretty much every car on the grid about twice. So you could probably get back around and start lapping some of the lower grid probably 3 times or so. So again, it's kind of a bit of a, you know, rush around. It's my first go at this. I've not used a Tomahawk in such a long time around Tokyo, and it's a completely different build from back in the day. So I wasn't expecting much, but I was still pleasantly surprised to see this is fully working and definitely the current fastest method. Now, as you can see, I'm actually serving a penalty here. This is just basically prove that those penalties are not going to take away your clean race bonus. In terms of AI difficulty, I just recommend having them on easy. It's not really going to make a difference what difficulty you're on, but, you know, why not? You don't want to kind of make a mistake and just sort of risk everything. Top speed wise, it's still possible to hit around about 300 miles an hour, but obviously we're not going to be opening the DRS, using the DRS, because if we did, we'd probably be able to hit upwards of probably about 340, maybe 350. It's completely up to you if you want to use it. I just would highly recommend against it, because every time I seem to use it, I just went basically sliding into the barrier. It really kind of upset the balance of the car. Obviously you've got less basically aero in use, so it really does kind of have a massive effect on the car. In terms of where you're mostly going to lose the car, I actually had a couple of moments right at the start of the lap. So as you go up at the tunnel, it's as if all grip kind of leaves the car. So once you go up over this bit, that's where the car is it's mostly going to start twitching towards the sort of end of the straight. So just be very careful there and just kind of hold back on your throttle. It's definitely requiring more throttle control than it used to. As you can see, we picked up damage by the slightest touch. The main kind of roadblock for you is literally the AI. They're an absolute nightmare, mostly because they're really thick and they don't kind of follow the blue flag rule. They will just kind of run where they want to run. So just take your time if you come up to them. It's not kind of worth, you know, the damage and running into the back of them. As you can see, we are on lap 11, and this is what I mean just by how twitchy it is. You can see basically where the rear end sort of leaves you as you go up over that bump there out of the tunnel. Again, we're just going to go down the inside of the AI, try and keep it as nice and cleanly as possible. Tyre wear, again, is not a massive issue. So thankfully, we're not actually going to have to pit throughout this whole method. The tyres will start wearing off towards the end, and I feel like probably lap 11, 12 is when you start to really feel a bit of a difference. So I recommend on those laps probably just holding back a little bit and just being ultra careful again with that throttle control, because it is an absolute nightmare to really kind of get used to. But once you do, it is pretty easy, to be honest. It's just kind of becomes second nature and a bit of muscle memory. Again, it's the same as the Corvette. Once you've kind of run it a few times, it becomes muscle memory and you'll start seeing your time shoot down and down. So, you know, in comparison to sort of Alpine, Corvette methods, Lancia methods, this is probably around about 5 minutes faster, maybe even more. So if you think about that in long term, well, it's saving you an absolute ton of time, and you're going to be closer to the around about what 2.4 million an hour mark again, kind of where the Tomahawk used to be originally. So I 100% recommend just running this method over and over again. Probably Polyphony will patch it. They would probably, you know, have been aware of it anyway. They was just kind of probably hoping nobody would find it. However, it's been found, it's out in the open again, and hopefully people just get to work, grind as much money as possible, like the good old days of Gran Turismo 7. So we're going to round the final corner here on our final lap. I believe this ended up being our fastest lap. As you can see, I'm just sort of being very gentle on the throttle, going right up the gears, and then letting sort of half throttle kick in before just kind of gently applying it more and more as we go into the tunnel, to the point where we're eventually on full throttle as we're about to cross the line and finally take that P1 in around about 21-22 minutes. So overall we did it in a 22:23.7 with an absolute ton of penalties. I probably picked up upwards of a minute and a half worth of penalties with a fastest lap of 1:41.710 on lap 9. So I do feel like this has the potential to be under 20 minutes. You could probably definitely run Tokyo around about 3 times in an hour. It's just going to take some getting used to. So it's 825k in around about 20 to 22 minutes. So it's absolutely great to see the Tomahawk back again, so I do recommend just fully just jumping on it. Thank you so much to Raddy, my subscriber and obviously friend on PlayStation Network, who sent me the message out of the blue and basically caused me to jump straight onto GT7 and get looking at the build that he'd sent me. So really awesome to see the Tomahawk. Thank you so much to him for basically bringing this car back to my attention, and I really do hope you guys, you know, or maybe even the guys that missed it the first time around, can kind of jump on it and just have a whole heap of fun. Yes, it's kind of twitchy. No, it's not as good as it originally was, but it's still 100% the fastest money making method or glitch, whatever you want to call it, in Gran Turismo 7. So that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers, guys.